So hello and welcome to the Recreate Your Health Project. I'm Dr. Lauren Beardsley, your host, and today we're talking about really, taking a lot of steps to making health simple. I'm here with Ben Brown, a good friend. I've known him for years, and I'm so pleased to have him here. So Ben has a dual master's in exercise and wellness and clinical nutrition. You've run a successful personal training and nutrition coaching business for, I believe it's been 14, 15 years now, correct?
Yeah, that's right. It was primarily personal training, and then I sort of progressed into mostly nutrition coaching. So everything is virtual now, but it is all encompassing in terms of fitness, nutrition, lifestyle, supplementation. Yep.
All right. And you've been training for like over 2 decades. And just to kind of give you a bit of a bio for everyone. So you are a man of passion, I'll say, and I read somewhere, to disrupt an industry that is full of misinformation, marketing schemes, and total confusion. And that's with your product, with your coaching, with your education, which I feel like that is like one of your biggest passionate pieces, is just educating the people you work with. As far as personality wise, you're just like full steam ahead, man. You're awesome, and you live what you preach, which is really powerful. Your overall approach, you avoid the crazy restriction, you avoid diet dogma, and really focus on like the tried and true methodologies that you've helped thousands of people lose weight, gain muscle, improve their energy, and live healthier lifestyles for themselves, for their families, for their visions, for their future. Ben is the founder of BSL Nutrition and the Smart Nutrition Made Simple podcast. It's a fantastic podcast. I've listened to so many episodes, super variety, ton of great experts. I highly encourage you guys checking it out. And basically the podcast, his overall approach is the mission to make the healthy choice the easy choice. Overall, Ben, you're committed to offering tremendous value and to solving problems with real world solutions by educating your audience first. And beyond that, you're a super invested husband, father of like 3 totally awesome kids. I just think you're really a great overall guy, and I'm really appreciative of you being here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Holy moly, that was an unbelievable introduction. I'm gonna have to get your intro notes and start using that. I'm blushing. That was fantastic. Thank you. I think you really summarized my mission very eloquently there. So thank you, Lauren.
Well, good. Yeah. And that's what I really want to do, is just highlight everyone when talking to about like their superpowers and what you're bringing to this landscape and how you're leveling up for yourselves, your families, and how you're serving people. So with that said, like, can you share a little bit more about how you establish like your kind of coaching model, how that's unique to the clients you work with, like any background in that for me?
Yeah, I think it's just been a long process, a long drawn out process of figuring out what works, what resonates with me and the clients that I work with, and kind of what I need to get rid of, and just learning a lot of things along the way. So like you said in the intro, I'm just super passionate about learning. And so I've spent a lot of time on education and trying to learn everything I could. And within that is figuring out the things. So both, with general academia, like regular academia with a couple master's degrees and bachelor's degree in exercise and nutrition, and kind of taking everything I can from that. But then as well as just anecdotal evidence with, thousands of hours of working with clients, in addition to continuing education certifications and learning from people like you, both through functional medicine, through conventional medicine, through functional nutrition, through exercise and wellness and supplementation. And then it's just been a process of implementation and understanding people and understanding myself.
Important part.
And I think so much of the coaching process has to do with where we are in our own respective journey. And I was talking to your husband about this, but developing being able to be empathetic enough to understand where someone is coming from, and then applying the appropriate principles for that person and where they are in their journey and how committed they are to the process and how ready they are to create change in their life. And it's all of that behavioral change model stuff. So Yeah, so there's been a lot of education, a lot of implementation, a lot of uh, progression and adaptation along the way, and now it's
Mm-hmm.
just this big hodgepodge of kind of this big toolbox, if you will, that I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I have to work with. That's different for every single person, and it just depends on what it is that I feel like they need and want at that
Mm-hmm.
time.
Yeah. Well, and we can be trained, so beautifully in all the clinical data, right? But then when it comes to applying that to a human being, like you're saying, everyone is different. You need to adjust to have
Hmm.
effect and to have it be successful for people. So yeah, the application's huge, and I know you're great. I have so many clients that we share, mutual clients, and that's always their comment is, every time it's different, but that allows for the results. So commend you for
Hmm.
that. So you mentioned adaptation, which is like, I mean, adapt or die right now, right? Like
Right.
there's so much happening and so much changing. Anything in particular that you foresee within like the wellness landscape, nutrition, et cetera, like any shifts that either you've been making or that you foresee overall?
I think that a lot of people are going to realize just how important their health really is to them at this juncture. Um, we're sitting here in quarantine, and what do we really have to focus on? Like, we can't eat out, we can't travel, we don't eat. I think that there's going to be a lot of people sitting here that are reflecting on their life up until this point and saying, I've sacrificed everything for money, for my job, for my career, for something extrinsic, only
Mm-hmm.
to come back and realize, what do I really have at the end of the day? You can have $1 million in your bank account, but you can't spend it right now. What are you
Mm-hmm.
going to do with it? Like, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And then we're sitting sort of in this fear of, well, if I get sick, what's going to happen? And who depends on me? And
Mm-hmm.
so I think if you're asking yourself the hard questions, what you're inevitably coming up with is, I need to make myself a priority. And
Mm-hmm.
I am my number one investment that I can be focused on
Mm-hmm.
right now as the economy is crashing, as the stock market is tanking. What are you investing in? Well, you better frickin' be investing in yourself,
Yeah.
because we're going to come out of this. Are you going to come out of it better than you went into it? I think we all have the opportunity to do that, but that really, lends itself to asking yourself, well, what do I need to start doing in order to do that, in order to ensure that I'm in the best possible position to grow personally, professionally, emotionally, and to be the support system that we all need for each other right now, for your family, for yourself, for your future, for all of the people that depend on you. Yeah, it's just think
Yeah.
you got to dive into you now and figure out what steps you need to take to bring that health back into alignment, back to
Yeah.
or move it to where you want it to be.
Yeah. This is such a time. I mean, it is critical to, work on mindset and behaviors and habits and all the things that are just like foundational that
Hmm.
we communicate all the time, but it's becoming priority. And I feel like this is just such an opportunity for people to gain some ground, that if we can do it right now, like while we're stuck with ourselves, that those small steps will just be leaps forward when this all starts to level off, and we go back to the new normal of whatever that will be for us. Yeah, we can gain a lot of ground right now. It's just,
I mean, there's never been a better time. It's like,
yeah.
look, we've got what we've been asking for,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We've got more time now. We're spending more time with the family. We're not as busy with work. Um, we're not eating out as much. All of those limiting factors that you and I deal with and hear from people on a daily basis that hold them back
Hmm.
are gone. So if you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? There's never been a better opportunity than now. But now's the hard part then. It's
Yep.
actually
Yeah.
doing it.
It's all of it. Yeah, it's just like right in front of you, and so doing it is the hard part. We all know what to do, but it's just taking that step to doing it. So
Definitely.
huge, huge. I read a post of yours and I forget, it was maybe a week or so ago, but just as far as like diet in particular, and I've had so many clients asking, immune health and what do I eat to, focus on my overall health? And there's so much dogma within the diet realm. Um, Vegan, keto, paleo, autoimmune. I mean, there's just so many labels. And you posted on like intuitive eating and
Hmm.
intuitive nutrition, and I thought that was like a really interesting post because I I I I want to encourage that so much with people I work with, but I agree with you that there's almost like some space of knowledge to getting there. So can you share with me kind of just a little about that, what you
Yeah.
commented in that post?
No, definitely. I think the nutrition scape landscape is very, very confusing and
Yeah.
justifiably so. There's so much information out there, and a lot of people who want to lose weight or get healthier or gain muscle mass or all the above, improve their body composition. They just don't really know where to turn, and they don't want to be inconvenienced per se by having to track every morsel of food that goes into their mouth, and justifiably so. Like, that makes sense, but unfortunately, if you don't know what you're putting in, you have no idea how
Yeah.
to regulate it effectively. And so it almost comes down to this idea of intuitive eating that, like, practitioners talk about, or nutritionists or dietitians or health coaches talk about. Well, you don't have to track everything. Like, they
Hmm.
tell people what they want to hear. You don't have to track things. You just eat intuitively. Like, how are you feeling? Right?
Hmm.
Um, do you feel like you need to be eating more protein or more carbohydrate or more fat? And it's going to change depending on the time of the year, the time of the month, your exercise levels, and so on and so forth. But to that same degree, is if you're lacking amount of knowledge, like if you
Hmm.
don't know what constitutes protein or carbohydrate or fat, or you don't know that that handful of almonds is 350 calories, or that soda is 140 calories and 38 grams of sugar, well, then
Mm.
how can you realistically monitor what it is that's coming in? And, you know, there's a lot of factors that influence how we function, how our hormones function, how we expend energy on a daily basis, why we expend energy, all of these equations, if you will. But at the end of the day, it's really about having the data necessary to be able to make informed decisions.
Hmm.
It's the same thing as a bank account. Like, you have to know what you're putting in, you have to know what you're taking out, so that you can maintain that balance,
Hmm.
so that you can save effectively, so that you can pay your bills. Well, to a lot of degrees, it's the same thing with your body. And if you don't have the foundational knowledge to be able to make those decisions, then you're in no position to be able to, quote unquote, eat intuitively,
Hmm.
right? So with that said, is I feel like there's steps. It depends on the person, but there's a lot of steps involved in saying, yeah, like, maybe you or I can eat intuitively because
Hmm.
we understand what 6 ounces of chicken breast looks like.
Well, we've
And
been
we
doing it
know
for 20 years,
we've been doing it forever, and
Yeah.
it's this constant learning process. But to take
Yeah.
someone who's never really paid attention to what they're putting in their mouth and then say you eat intuitively, well, they don't understand the extraneous and ancillary factors that impact hunger and energy and cravings and mood and stress and sleep and all of those things that factor in. So it's just one of those many nuances to
Yeah.
nutrition. At this point in my career, I'm a firm believer that it's like the saying, right? You can't manage what you don't measure.
Yeah.
Same deal. You got to spend time learning and measuring before you can have the freedom to
Yeah.
be left to your own devices. And even then, there
Yeah.
still needs to be some semblance of accountability and structure in place, because structure equals flexibility and freedom in my
Yes.
world. Uh, and so if you're not maintaining that structure, then you're probably not doing what you need to do uh, to support your long-term goals.
Yeah, that is the most, I love that quote because it's so like counterintuitive. Structure, equates to freedom because it just
Hmm.
sounds like rigid but and limiting, but it's so true. Especially when you're starting. because if you don't have any of that, then you're just going to be a chaotic mess. And I think a lot of people lightly feel that way right now. So to just start dipping toes into how to expose yourself to this world and nutrition, just play around with it. You know, we have to try. And if something doesn't work, I always suggest just look into something different. There's so many experts and gurus out there that have their way, but that's not everyone's way. So it's really listening to yourself, but being invested and involved and engaged in that journey, and just trying everything
That's
out.
it though. That's the whole thing, is you have to be invested in your journey. You have to be committed to the process
Yeah.
and not be bound by one person, one practitioner's vision of what it's supposed to look like for you, or one dietary dogma that, you know, Debbie down the street has had phenomenal success with, therefore it's supposed to work for you. That's not how it works. That's not how our body works. That's not how our lives work. We all have different stimulus in so many different ways that are unique to us. Therefore, you got to find the way that works best for you. And there's going to be, it's going to be an undulating road. It's going to be a bumpy road, right? But that's the journey. And it's the only way you're going to figure out what is actually working for you, to the point where you can get to be intuitive about it, if that even is, you know, is
Oh,
actually a thing, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. But it takes time to get there. And then once you reach it, it will just continue to
Yeah, it's
evolve and
constantly
shift.
evolving. It's
Yeah.
constantly evolving. Health is constantly evolving. There's always different emphasis, and our perception of what health means to us, what aspect of health we're focusing on, is constantly evolving.
Mhm.
Earlier on, it's like, you know, I want to be as lean as I possibly can be. I want to have as much muscle as I possibly can be. And now it's like, dude, I just want to live a long time and live a happy life and have the energy and vitality to be able to play with my kids and, you know, be there for them all the time. And so it's just always changing,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
you recognize that. And that's, I think, a unique part of how you work with people. And that, because like you're saying, people's purposes and why, you know, a shift.
Mhm.
Hopefully I'm a different person and I have different goals than I did when I was in my 20s. So you just need to adjust with what people are wanting for their lives. So it's huge. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, okay. So with that said, little bit of a shift, but with the people you work with, what are some traits that kind of allow for success, or I say resilience, but just like success overall? Anything in particular that you see as the most crucial for people having?
I like to talk about it as being tenacious, right? To
Okay.
have tenacity is, you know, basically adopting an identity that they step into,
Hmm.
um, in order for them to accomplish something.
Hmm.
And people that I work with generally are driven enough to, are willing to get uncomfortable enough to be able to step into that realm, if that
Hmm.
makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just this sort of unrelenting desire to continue to be better and better, and accept the areas where they're weak or
Hmm.
flawed, if you will, the areas where they need work, to
Hmm.
focus on those, so that overall they can just continue to become better, more capable, learn new skills, because ultimately that's what the nutrition world is. That's what behavioral change is. It's just learning new skills, learning how to approach situations differently, learning more about yourself, your emotions, and how you respond in different situations,
Hmm.
acknowledging those responses, those
Hmm.
feelings, and then making a decision as to how you're going to, um, you know, move through that in a way that's
Hmm.
going to support your goals.
Hmm. Hmm. And so with people you work with, are there like an overall identity that they're kind of embracing or embodying, or are there like separate ones for, be it like fitness, nutrition, goals, family? Do you play around with that at all, or how do you work with that?
I think that generally, I think generally the people that I work with are looking to kind of have more energy. They're looking
Hmm.
to improve their body composition. But it's more about, especially now, it's more about just kind of helping them become the best version of themselves. Like
Cool.
usually they have, like I was talking about earlier, they've spent a considerable amount of time and energy in their life towards something more extrinsic, whether it be their career, um, their finances. And now they're at a point in their lives when they feel like they've neglected themselves, um, to some degree, or they've previously been an athlete. So there's been some semblance of, perpetual physical activity in there. Maybe they've continued to work out, but not to the degree that they know they're capable of. So it's like,
Hmm.
it's taking that next step, whether it's just regaining that aspect of health. Like, I just want to feel better. I want to look better with my shirt off. With that, obviously, I'm going to lose some body fat, but I
Hmm.
know I need to start eating healthier so that I can have the energy I want to have, so that I can be present for my family, for the long term, um, and so on and so forth. So I think
Hmm.
there's obviously varying degrees of the type of person, but
Yeah.
generally it's sort of that identity that they're,
Yeah.
um, that they present with.
And they just wanting to be the better version of themselves. I think that's just like simply perfect because and understanding what's driving that. Is it for, performance or their family? Keeping those driving factors will allow for incentive to do the hard work is involved in all of this. It's not just about what you're eating, right? It's all that is around that.
Yeah, and I think that there's some ego involved in that
Yeah.
too. And it's obviously, those are a lot of the conversations that we have is, look, I mean, there has to be some kind of motivating factor to get people, for people to engage your services, whether it's, kind of getting out of pain. Imagine
Hmm.
for a lot of your clients, it's just getting out of pain. For a lot of people that I work with, it's moving them closer towards some ancillary goal. And so it could be a bit of ego, it could be just like, I just want to look freaking awesome with my shirt off. Cool. And at the
Which
end of
is,
the day is identifying with, in doing that, in that process, let's look at all of the, um, behavioral change, components that happen along the way. Let's look and see, you've become, more energetic. You've become a better father. You've become more present. Um, you've learned all of these nutrition skills in terms of cooking better for your family. So you're teaching your children the skills that they're going to need for
mhm,
a lifetime of health. And then it gets to the point where we start to actually ask those tough questions of like, okay, now how much are you willing to sacrifice in order to accomplish these goals? Because just as any goal, there has to be a balance. And
mhm,
so if you
mhm,
want to get super lean, as an example, well, you're going to have to sacrifice some certain things in your life. And do you love
mhm,
going out on those work dinners? And do you love just being with the family and enjoying desserts and wine and, eating out with the kids on the weekends and Sunday donuts? And if you do, great, like that's
mhm,
awesome. But you have to decide now, like, where do you want that balance to lie, and how far are you willing to swing the pendulum one way or the other? And invariably, a lot of it comes down to like, wow, I didn't realize how great I would feel sort of living in this level of balance, when so many
yeah,
of us are so, skewed one way or the other.
yeah,
And I'm just happy that I'm here, as opposed to, I don't think I need to push it too far outside of
yeah.
this place. But if and when I do, I know what I need to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And you be patient with yourself and that time will come, but you know what to do. So I know it's a really great feeling to feel balanced and to know that you can, I mean, I often advocate for like the whole 80-20. You can't be perfect all the time and be kind to yourself and be patient, but you need to get to that point where you can feel that way and make those decisions. So what are your practices? Like if you can give me top three or even top one, what are you especially doing right now to assure your overall health
Yeah.
and wellness?
I move every day, as
Okay.
much, I'll say as much as I can. It's not really, it's that I know I need to move, right? So we
Hmm.
get out, we ride bikes, we walk around the block. I have a gym in my garage. Thank goodness,
Hmm.
because that is a major outlet for me. So, I get in a little bit of strength training every day, or at least 5 days a week, usually in the afternoons. Now with this kind of quarantine life, the mornings are relegated to cranking out work,
Yep. Yep.
and doing podcasts with awesome people. And so it's definitely move. You got to move.
Cool.
I think we're sitting so much more now by virtue
Mhm.
of being on lockdown,
Yeah.
and that's a dangerous position to be. Um, so that I need for sanity, um, and my family needs for sanity. And next to that is I actually am very diligent about measuring um, almost everything.
Mhm.
And it's not an OCD type of measuring, but it's something that helps actually keep me grounded, helps create more structure in my life, and almost makes everything else easier
Mhm.
to balance. So I measure, I
Yeah.
mean,
Give me examples. Like what? What are you measuring?
I measure my food, I
Cool.
measure my sleep, I measure
Okay.
my strength training and
Okay.
total daily steps. Um, I measure, so those are sort of like the objective stuff that I
Okay.
measure. Um, and then subjectively is like my preparation methodology, my sleep, my
Mhm.
stress levels, both my work stress, my home stress, because my kind of level of effort on a weekly basis, like how much effort did I put into my nutrition and training practices for the week?
Mhm.
And it offers an immediate feedback, an immediate accountability tool to help me assess progress, to help me assess what I need to do better. It's the same thing from a business standpoint, is right. You
Mhm.
have KPIs, right? Key
Yep.
performance indicators. It's the exact same shit.
Okay.
Excuse my
So just
language.
for your life, that's all right. Well, it's
um,
welcome.
yeah. So
Okay.
but it's just for my life, and it helps me stay grounded, helps me kind of focus on the things that I can really control. I mean, I have goals just like anyone else.
Mhm.
Um, and so by doing that though, it makes me think less about other, like, do I want that piece of cheesecake? Well, no. I mean, yes, I want it, but no, I'm not going to have it. And it's an easy decision. Am I going to
Yeah.
have a second beer? No, I'm not, because frankly, I just don't have room for it in my calories as much as I would like it. I don't need it. I'm fine. I
Yeah.
know what I need right now, and sort of what I'm sticking to that's in line with my health goals. And I think that's a phenomenal tool for people when we talk about intuitive eating. It's like, again, same deal. It's like if you're not
Yeah.
measuring, you don't really know
Yeah.
how things are happening. And so for me, that's a huge part of my health right now. I definitely have periods of time where it's very liberal, and
Mhm.
we just go off and do what I want to do, and that's where intuitive comes in. um, Next to that, and lastly, I think the biggest thing right now is having a strong support system and
Yeah.
social connection. Man, it's crazy, but I'm finding so much value in connecting with loved ones, friends, especially over the past month. We do kind of weekly calls, like weekly happy hours, if you will, and we'll have
Cool.
7 or 8 guys on a FaceTime call. And it
Yeah.
just, like, that's one of those things that just fills my bucket.
Yeah.
It's like we're all together again. And ironically, this would never have happened had this
Mhm.
situation not be unfolding. We're
Yeah.
all on a call together, all just laughing. Um, and it feels, it feels good. Like, it's just
Mhm.
something we're missing, that huge element of social support right
Yeah.
now, because we're in social isolation. And what we don't realize is such a huge component of health is that social connectedness.
Yeah.
Um, like, it's very clear from the research, if you are lonely and isolated, your immune system will suffer. You will be
Yeah.
producing more stress hormones. You're going to be more likely to get sick, to die of
Yeah.
any disease, of
Yeah.
anything. um, and so in order to boost our immune system at this time, we have to engage, connect, express our love, receive love from others, um, and support each other, because we're all in this together. That's the biggest thing. And I think it's going to be one of the beautiful things that comes out of this
Yeah.
whole experience.
Yeah, I agree. And it in as far as like back to your structure, I think we just have such a unique, it's a gift, it's a unique opportunity to be able to like draft out what we want that structure to be and what it needs to include. And the socialness, I agree. I've been so much more connected in the last few weeks to colleagues and friends and family, than I have in years. And I'm just hoping, with everything we're talking about and doing, and that this continues into the future, and it doesn't like fade after, the next 6 months to a year, that we can recognize the power of connectedness, and the incredible technology that we have that allows for this to be available. So
Yeah.
yeah, it is, from a health standpoint, that's huge. But being able to draft out like what we want a new normal to look like, and include, and the things that you'd mentioned, I think that is a huge thing to know it's working for you, and hopefully people resonate with that. So yeah, thank you for sharing. Well, beyond that, and everything we're talking about, can you sum up, like, what is your unique message that you want to share with our audience, with the world, beyond anything we've talked about today?
I mean, I think it's in line with what we just discussed. Is we're not alone, and you
Hmm.
don't have to do this alone, nor should you do this alone. And
Hmm.
I dared to say you can't do it alone. Um, we're all in this together, and we literally need each other in order to survive and thrive.
Hmm.
We're seeing that very clearly, and I think that this is one massive experiment
Hmm.
that we're going to look back on and say those people that felt more socially connected thrived.
Yeah.
Um, and so, you know, my message is let's work together to raise the tides.
Hmm.
Let's help each other out. If nothing else, I mean, that's the best that we can do right now. So many of us are suffering in so many different ways, economically, that what else, for some of us, what else do we have to give but kind of love and support? And I think that's what people need the most right now.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, it's just in terms of my overall mission is absolutely keeping things simple
Hmm.
and not getting too bogged down in the details, is just embracing the journey here. And I think for a lot of us, this is going to be a major tipping point,
Hmm.
that we all have a massive ability to create something profound from this, whether it's just with our family, with our social connections, with ourselves, with, like I said, investing in ourselves, and make the world a better place because of it. So I would encourage people to utilize those that care about them and not turn people away. And by that
Hmm.
same token, reach out to those that you think might need a shoulder to lean on, because there are
Hmm.
going to be a lot of people now that are in that position. Um, and if you're the type of person to have that love to give, which we all do, then it's your responsibility to do that.
Yeah. And is this something that do you have conversations with your family and your children about these types of things? I mean, it's such an interesting time to have young people to be kind of explaining what's going on, and how this is going to impact their future. I
Yeah.
consider that. So is this something that you talk with your kids about too?
Yeah, to a degree. I
Well,
mean,
yeah.
frankly, right now, our conversations are, both of my daughters are, um, they're, for whatever reason, interested in starting small businesses, and which is
Oh,
awesome.
I wonder. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're like, so one of my daughters, she's starting a yard work business, and she said she will, she's going to pull weeds and she's going to mow the lawn, and she'll do, she calls it yard work plus, because we
Okay.
um, decided that she can do a lot more than just the yard work. She can wash the windows, and she can, you know, um, and do all that kinds of stuff. And so we're talking through that. And right now we're at the
Cool.
point where she hasn't figured out where she's going to get a lawnmower from yet, nor does she know how to mow the lawn. So that will be a problem she'll encounter when she needs to deal with it. And then the second daughter is, we're in the assessment stage of her trying to identify her ideal client's pain points and how she can
Okay.
serve her client in terms of who does she really want to work with, and then what sort of things do they need that aren't currently available that she can offer them. That's because she
Wow.
was going to do a car wash. And I said, honey, you know, while that might seem like a good idea, a car wash is actually a terrible business model, because it's going to
Squash
take
your
you
dreams.
it's going to take you 30 minutes to wash my car. You're going to have to use a lot of resources and manpower to do it. And frankly, you're going to do a crappy job. I can drive it down the street and get a $3 car wash that's going to take me 5 minutes. Now, you tell me why your service is better than that car
Yeah.
wash. So she understands. So now we're working through. So those are the conversations that we're having, which is awesome.
Awesome. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. To have a time to do that and to have them with the like the mindset of considering like what can they do with their time now. That's
Yeah.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that that's the best education that we can offer them right now, as much as they should be digging into kind of the schoolwork and their traditional
Yeah.
studies. I mean, honestly, if I can get them to embrace reading a little bit more and just, I would love for them to be able to want to read a little bit more, because I believe it's just so incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
Um, and then if we can talk about some life lessons in the process, then that is, I mean, what better education is there than that? And I
Yeah.
get to spend time with them.
Yeah.
Like just as invaluable.
Yeah, every bit of it, absolutely. And yeah, and I think to our audience, this is just a time to educate yourselves, to reach out, to search for the resources that are going to inspire you and provide you with the knowledge that you can then translate into your life, and it can have a tremendous impact on your health, your well-being, everything. So with that said, like highly encourage your podcast, dude. It's fantastic, and you have
Thank
so
you.
many stellar experts on that are just from like variety of backgrounds. You do a really great job of selecting and highlighting them and just sharing a lot of unique stuff. And each person can resonate with different ones. So I commend you for all of that. It's great. And with all that, yeah, thank you so much for talking with me today.
Absolutely.
I was excited to actually just see you and talk with you because it's been a
I
while.
know. I
But
know. And I really appreciate you having me on and including me. And I appreciate everything that you're doing. You and
yeah,
your husband are rock stars. I love you
yeah,
guys. And I'm just, I feel very grateful to have you guys in our lives. And,
yeah,
you're making a massive difference in the world. So I
yeah.
appreciate that.
As are you. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciated.
Take care.